He just took over. Jump shots, block shots, layups, dunks.
He's a force no one can deny. And on the court, few can reckon with.
Brashness, confidence, exuberance, energy. He definitely had that.
Michael Jordan!
The greatest of all time.
Michael Jordan, a legend to millions.
People who were not basketball fans wanted to see basketball because of him.
A hero known round the world.
Everywhere that Michael Jordan went, it became an event.
Nobody in the world would cover my main man, Michael Jordan.
But if you think his life is as smooth as his slam dunks, not so.
When you don't take a stand on sweatshops, that seems to be not all-American.
In this hour, his real-life struggles along the way.
He gambled. He tried not to talk about it.
Horrific tragedy and heartbreak.
The victim was the father of basketball star Michael Jordan.
Nothing could ever compare to the loss of a parent.
Also, the winning spirit that lifted him.
My life takes on a different challenge, and I welcome that.
And his fans' eternal dream.
If Michael comes back to play, I'd be like the Beatles on a reunion tour.
Another chance to root for Michael Jordan.
This is Headliners and Legends with Matt Lauer.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Headliners and Legends. Will he or won't he? That's the question on a lot of minds about whether Michael Jordan will ever come out of retirement again. Only his airness can answer that question, but to learn where he may go, you have to understand where he's been. And what a life so far. From a career that nearly ended before it began, to superstar fame, gravity-defying moves, and multi-million-dollar deals. All of that set against one of the most compelling personal dramas you will ever hear.
The boy who learned to fly is born in Brooklyn, New York on February 17, 1963. Just months after Michael Jeffrey Jordan arrives, his family moves to sleepy Wilmington, North Carolina. James Jordan takes a job as a maintenance man at the nearby General Electric plant. His mother, Dolores, works part-time at a local bank. She develops a special bond with her second child. At home, the Jordans instill in Michael a deep-rooted love and respect.
There was strict discipline in the house, and the kids all knew that and understood it.
You could tell very early on that Michael was, was a winner. He was just competitive in everything that he really tried to do.
But at age 7, Michael's seemingly carefree life is nearly snuffed out. One day, while swimming with a friend in nearby Wrightsville Beach, the two get caught up in the undertow. His friend is sucked under. Michael survives, but the near-death experience leaves a lasting legacy.
I know to this day Michael is petrified of water in the pool and those type of things because of, I think those incidents were, traumatic.
Michael's family tries to shelter him from the tragedy. Indeed, his father's focus is not on young Michael's state of mind, but rather his increasingly agile body. James Jordan begins to notice Michael's enormous athletic talent. One day, he decides to teach his son his favorite sport, baseball.
James just had a passion for the game of baseball himself, and I think that kind of rubbed off on Michael.
Soon, Michael is attracting attention on the sandlots.
He was so little, he was so skinny and frail looking, but he could play ball.
And it isn't long before the young pitcher gets his first taste of dominating the competition. But his coach soon realizes there is more to Michael than just his pitching arm.
One of the pictures I have, if you notice, he was 13 years old, and he had his hand on his knee, but his fingers went all the way down the top of his shin bone. His hands were just huge.
Michael shows such promise that he is named Mr. Baseball at a tournament in North Carolina. But his interest is about to change. In 1976, Michael enters junior high school, and he soon meets Harvest Leroy Smith, a big 6-footer, who immediately takes the gawky 13-year-old under his wing.
Michael was shy. I think all of us were kind of shy at that time.
At home, Michael is anything but shy. As a middle child, Michael is fiercely competitive. especially with his older brother Larry. It plays out in brutal fashion on a makeshift basketball court behind the house.
Well, from what I hear, they were not friendly, hey, I'll teach you this games. Jordan likes to win. And he couldn't then playing against his brother.
The bruising battles take on a mythic status in the neighborhood, and soon other kids begin joining in.
That's where most of the sweat and tears came from, in that backyard when I used to play with my brother in the neighborhood gang.
During those games, the neighborhood boys get an early look at the competitive drive and maniacal will to win that will become Jordan's trademark.
No one hated to lose more than Michael, so you had to battle and play. And if you beat him, you had to play another game. If you beat him again, if you were lucky to beat him twice, you had to play until he evened up the score and then went up 3-2.
But Michael's need to win soon shows a dark side. In a pattern that will play throughout his life in occasionally troublesome ways, Michael shows an early interest in betting. It starts innocently over card games with friends.
He would play you until he was up. You know, and you say, man, I'm just tired, I have no more. It's like, come on, one more, one more.
But in the gym at Laney High School, that competitiveness makes up for his physical shortcomings. While standing only 5'6", his quickness and intensity make him a junior varsity standout.
Wasn't very big, kind of a skinny, gangly type kid, but he was a pretty good athlete.
But is he good enough? The freshman isn't satisfied with JV. Both he and his friend go out for the varsity, and after what they think is a spectacular tryout, the two saunter up to the posted roster.
I saw my name and it's like, yeah, I'm on the varsity. So I was ecstatic. And I knew if I made it, Michael made it.
But Michael Jordan is about to suffer his first setback on the road to greatness.
Jordan, no Michael Jordan. Jordan, no Michael Jordan. Michael turns, walks off.
And he went home to an empty house because his mom was at work. And she found him in his room crying over being cut.
I could have easily said that, you know, I give up on it. I give up on the sport. I give up on, you know, people's perception of my talent. But instead, I utilize it to where, hey, I'm going to prove you wrong.
4 months, Michael spends long hours on the court behind his home, refining his game. By the end of that year, Michael makes varsity. And that summer, he grows an incredible 4 inches to 6'2". Now, he's not only quick, but he can fly.
He dunked one time and hit his head on the backboard at 6'2", okay? You know, in high school.
Soon, Michael is dominating the court and the state's sports pages. And when Michael scores 15 unanswered points in a championship game, people begin using the word superstar.
It was the most incredible thing to see as a high schooler, to see a guy just take over a game like that.
Coming up, millions across the nation see Michael for the first time on national TV.
And I was more nervous than anything in my whole life.
And are blown away by what they witness.
Michael Jordan!
It's fall 1980. 17-year-old Michael Jordan is growing taller, stronger, and beginning to make a national name for himself on the basketball court. As his reputation explodes, college coaches begin to take notice. Then one day, legendary North Carolina basketball coach Dean Smith shows up at a game.
That's blow away. You know, that means that you're somebody special. You know, I can only imagine what Michael was thinking. It's like, man, there's the Dean.
Jordan is heavily recruited by several top schools. But growing up in coastal Carolina, there really is only one choice. He decides on UNC and Dean Smith. When Jordan arrives at UNC in the fall of 1981, he is confident and perhaps cocky, coming off an appearance in the Showcase McDonald's High School All-American game. He is determined to start on the team as a freshman, and when he lets everyone know his plans, the veteran upperclassmen are quick to raise eyebrows.
You know, whether you want to call it a brashness or confidence or exuberance or an energy, he definitely had that.
He worked so hard every day, tried to win every little drill. Coach Smith used to put 4 starters on one group and then Michael and 4 reserves on another group, and I used to kid him, you're going to lose this one today, big fella.
But that sort of taunting only fuels the fire within Jordan. He takes the starting spot. But his coaches are not about to inflate Jordan's already overstuffed ego. When Sports Illustrated wants to feature the UNC starting 5 on the cover, Dean Smith refuses to let Jordan pose for the shot.
He didn't want to put a freshman on the front cover of Sports Illustrated when he hadn't had to earn anything.
Despite that, Jordan begins making headlines. He even gets the attention of some of professional basketball's biggest stars.
When I first saw Michael, it was, his freshman year. He started producing highlights very early in the game.
Meanwhile, back in Wilmington, James and Dolores Jordan are immensely proud of their son's accomplishments. Although baseball remains his father's first love, he throws himself wholeheartedly into Michael's basketball career.
You couldn't help but see his dad. I mean, he came to all the games.
And with his dad in attendance, Michael takes the court for UNC during the national championship game against Georgetown.
And I was more nervous than anything in my whole life.
Both the game and the title come down to a final shot, a shot taken by Michael Jordan.
Michael shot it like he was shooting the ball in warm-ups.
18. Shot! Jordan! Michael Jordan!
To me, his poise and composure to be in front of 63,000 people in a national championship game, to do that was uncanny.
I didn't even dream of such things happening to me, and I'm just very happy that the Lord blessed me with all this talent.
For the next 2 years, Jordan leads the Tar Heels to winning seasons, and along the way he grabs numerous awards, from All-American to National Player of the Year. Yet off the court, Jordan has a hard time letting go of his competitiveness. Michael Jordan is obsessed with beating his teammates and friends in everything, from golf to pool.
Michael thought he was a pretty good pool player. And, growing up in New York, I've played pool once or twice, and wasn't great, but I got hot and beat him. And this is in front of our teammates, and he looks at the table and takes his pool stick and throws it on the table and says, "This table's not regulation," and walked off.
Despite this fierce competitive drive and high-profile status on campus, Jordan is able to enjoy a relatively normal college life, complete with parties and women.
He had some girlfriends, and we would have fun. I remember us joking around in Granville Towers. I mean, there was some music playing, and all of a sudden, the whole team is in the hallway doing defensive slides to the music.
But Jordan is not satisfied with simply having a great college career. With the blessing of his father, he decides to forego his senior year and his degree, and announces he will enter the NBA draft.
I just feel that it's time for me to move on.
Once he leaves and go out on his own, I'm going to automatically get a raise, I don't have to give him $2 and $3 and stuff like that.
But before heading for the pros, he enjoys one last moment in the amateur spotlight, the glitz and glamour of the 1984 Summer Olympic Games in Los Angeles. As the star attraction of the American team, Michael Jordan delivers on cue.
And Jordan picks it up, and it's good! Beautiful, Michael Jordan, it's his day.
Jordan leads the U.S. team to a gold medal.
So things kind of started to click in order that it was a script that no one could write any better than what was happening.
But other things are also happening. The bottom-dwelling Chicago Bulls get third pick in the 1984 National Basketball Association draft.
The Chicago Bulls picked Michael Jordan.
We felt we had drafted a good player. How good? Nobody. Anybody who tells you they knew how good he was going to be is less than candid.
I don't even think Chicago knew what they were getting, that they would, get a guy who, pound for pound, would be the greatest of all time.
Coming next, Jordan takes to the air, and the media makes him a superstar, only to fly face first into tragedy.
The victim was the father of basketball star Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan joins a Chicago Bulls team in last place with a half-empty stadium and a sports culture that cares more about their overweight mascot than their second-rate basketball team. But that all changes in the fall of '84 when Chicago and the nation begins tuning into the Jordan phenomenon. Before he even steps foot on the professional basketball floor, Jordan is reaping the rewards of a $2.5 million deal with Nike, which includes the release of his signature Air Jordans.
Welcome to Flight 23.
And it isn't long before people are introduced to Chicago's new frequent flyer.
He was a star from the first game he played. and we were much better. We were much more exciting.
Jordan's celebrity status is also gaining him notice in entertainment circles. Soon, he's hosting MTV.
Coming up, videos from Bon Jovi, Sting, CNC Music Factory.
In addition to TV appearances, gossip columnists take notice when he briefly dates actress Robin Givens. But soon, Jordan's teammates begin showing signs of jealousy toward their flashier, wealthier teammate. Publicly, Jordan downplays the controversy.
With the financial background that I have, jealousy can easily arouse a lot of people around me, and the little things that I may do that I'm, used to doing all the time, people may take that wrong and say I'm acting cocky or, I'm arrogant, and you really have to be cautious in a sense.
In 1987, Jordan throws that caution to the wind. During the All-Star Slam Dunk contest, his soaring leap electrifies the crowd. 1 year later, he does it again. This time in front of a basketball legend sitting in the stands.
He kind of looks over at me and, gives it one of those where you think. And so I pointed to the other end of the court. And then he took off, he went to the other end of the court, and he came in and he did the pump shot from the foul line or whatever. And he looked over and, it was like that sign of approval. I said, yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
But Jordan wants to go further than the sports highlight reels. He wants to take the still struggling Bulls to a championship. As the fruitless years add up, Jordan's frustration mounts.
And it was the most frustrating in the world for Michael, not to be able to get to the conference finals, much less the ultimate, the big show, the big dance.
It's during these tough times that Jordan will often look into the stands and find the comforting sight of his adoring parents.
And Jordan said once to me that if he had heard that his parents had not arrived and were in their seats safely, he couldn't go out and play the game because he'd be thinking the whole game, where are they?
By 1987, the Bulls are no longer just a one-man show, and soon they're tasting playoff victories, like this one against Cleveland.
Jordan with 2 seconds to go, puts it up and scores at the buzzer!
At home games in Chicago Stadium, the excitement is reaching deafening levels. The Bulls' unique player introductions, a massive sound and light show, can rattle the coolest opponents. Michael is unaffected.
The place was actually vibrating from the music. And so the whole picture's sort of vibrating. But there's Michael just concentrating on the game, because no matter what happens all day, it all leads up to that 1 hour of playing time.
Michael's personal life is also coming together. In the mid-'80s, Jordan meets high school homecoming queen Juanita Van Noy through a mutual friend. After a 4-year courtship and the out-of-wedlock birth of their son Jeffrey, the two marry in September 1989 in a Las Vegas wedding chapel. Michael and Juanita eventually settle in downtown Chicago, and despite his burgeoning fame, the couple and their 3 children lead a surprisingly private life.
Jordan!
And even though his team is rising to the top of the NBA and the championship in 1991, it is still the personal moments and the seemingly unshakable bond with his father that seem to matter the most.
I never thought I'd be this emotional, but I couldn't hold it back.
But it is over an incident with his father that, after powering the Bulls to another NBA championship and another Olympic team to another gold medal, the Jordan Express nearly derails. In the middle of the playoffs, Jordan, father and son, take a late-night drive that will tarnish Michael's image and his relationship with the press for years to come.
There was a playoff series against the Knicks, and Jordan and his dad went down to Atlantic City and gambled in a casino.
The Atlantic City incident comes just months after a self-proclaimed gambling addict, Richard Esquinas, publishes a book in which he details how he won $1.25 million in golfing bets off Jordan. Suddenly, there's a frenzy of stories about Jordan's alleged gambling addiction.
He tried not to talk about it. He said he had a competition problem, not a gambling problem, but he gambled.
For those who know him personally, Jordan's gambling is nothing new. But for millions of adoring fans, it's an ugly blemish. Jordan is furious that the press is now questioning his character. So the once ebullient star gives the media the cold shoulder.
I could see the change in '93 is that the season wore on in the playoffs. He became more and more reclusive before the games. He was hiding out in little places.
Finally, Jordan realizes he must say something. He consents to one friendly interview to address the controversy.
For the public, do you have a gambling problem?
No, I enjoy it. It's a hobby. If I had a problem, I'd be starving. I'd be hawking this watch. My championship rings, I would sell my house. I would do this. My wife had left me, or she'd be starving, or my kids would be starving. I do not have a problem. I enjoy gambling, but I think that people are trying to make it seem like I have a problem because they don't really know.
With his family and friends standing firmly by his side, Jordan works through his hurt and anger, and his defenders begin to speak out.
It didn't affect his play on the court. It didn't affect what he did from his employment standpoint, so I don't think it should have bear any weight in the media at all, honestly.
Soon, Jordan and the Bulls are on their way to winning their third championship in a row, this time beating Charles Barkley's Phoenix Suns. Jordan savors the moment with his inner circle.
And Michael had the big cigar. They're ordering Dom Perignon. He ordered like 5 huge bottles of champagne in the room, and he was still in his shorts with no shirt on. The mother was there. The father was there.
A 3-time champ, Jordan is now at the top of his game. But within weeks, none of that will matter to Michael.
Police in North Carolina have arrested 2 young men who they say committed random highway robbery and murder. Only in this case, the victim was the father of basketball star Michael Jordan.
James Jordan, the man who has loomed so large in Michael's life, is found murdered on a lonely North Carolina highway.
I remember when the tragedy occurred and Michael lost his father, I couldn't imagine the toll that it was going to take on Michael.
I knew that I had lost a dear friend, but that Michael had lost a lot more. And he had lost more than just a father. He had lost a teacher, he had lost a mentor, he had lost a best friend.
Next, a heartsick Michael copes with his loss by choosing the unthinkable.
It's time for me to move away from the game of basketball.
But not before he vaults to the stars.
By the early 1990s, Michael Jordan is flying high. He's perhaps the best-known celebrity anywhere. 3 straight NBA championships with the Bulls, his face on cereal boxes and billboards, his image on the world's most popular footwear. And all is going well at home. But then comes talk that he has a gambling problem that's out of control. And in the summer of 1993, his father and mentor, James Jordan, is murdered, sending the NBA's highest flyer into a tailspin.
As police investigate the murder of Michael Jordan's father in the summer of 1993, there is no obvious explanation. Allegations swirl that his death may be connected to Michael's gambling debts, allegations that will prove unfounded. But for now, they infuriate an already grieving Michael.
On top of your father being murdered, there are voices out there indicating that you, his son, may in some tangential way be responsible for your father's murder. Yeah, there'll be some bitterness.
And even though it will be eventually proven that James Jordan was killed during a robbery gone bad, and that the killing had no connection to his son, the intense public scrutiny of Michael's most private moments leave a lasting scar.
I think he's been very wounded by everything that has happened to him lately, and nothing could ever compare to the loss of a parent. I think the gambling allegations have hurt him, and now this happens. This should have been the best year of his life. And now it's turned out to be the worst time of his life.
The loss of James Jordan proves too much for the son, who sought to prove so much to his father.
Michael Jordan, the greatest the game has ever seen, said today he's going to watch the grass grow and even cut it from time to time.
Teammates and coaches watch helplessly as Michael Jordan decides to walk away from the game he loves.
I'm still looking. I've heard a lot of different speculations about my reasons for not playing, but I've always stressed to people that have known me and the media that has followed me that when I lose the sense of motivation and the sense of to prove something as a basketball player, it's time for me to move away from the game of basketball.
And I knew that if he were to put himself through another 82-game season, every city, everybody questions the flashbulbs, and on top of that, in every locker room, someone's saying, Michael, your dad's not here, how you feeling? I knew he couldn't do it.
He'll satisfy his competitive urges for a while with some pickup basketball games, until his father's voice leads Michael to his next calling.
I guess the biggest positive thing that I can take out of my father not being here with me today is that he saw my last basketball game.
James Jordan had been there when young Michael was the star of his Little League baseball team in North Carolina and had always wanted his son to play in the majors. Now, at age 31 and already a millionaire, Michael Jordan decides to follow his father's dream. He signs with baseball's Chicago White Sox as a minor leaguer, earning $5 an hour. Jordan's decision fires up his critics.
Make sure you're square, Mike.
With all he could be doing with his life, they say, why is he in right field for the AA Birmingham Barons, traveling by bus to play games in places like Greenville, South Carolina, as far from the bright lights as you can get?
I think the death of Michael's dad and the gambling, I think, and the crush of humanity around Michael in '93 were all the three reasons why he retired and went to play baseball, where he was sort of free finally in Birmingham and play a game that was simpler again.
Coming down here and riding on the bus and staying in the Holiday Inns, there's nothing wrong with that. People live that way. Yeah, I could afford differently, but I like it.
Michael! In his lighter moments, Michael Jordan still appears to be a major star, even in the minor leagues. After all, what other athlete signs autographs for the opposing team?
You hear what I just told him? I said, yeah, I'm giving him an autograph, and he's going to try to strike me out and throw me out and all that stuff.
Hurt ball ripped left side through. Base hit.
But baseball turns out to be harder than just fun and games for Michael. Some of his teammates resent his presence in a sport they don't believe he's made any sacrifices for.
I resent it in a way that, you know, this is all I've worked for my whole life, and then a guy can come right in and get the opportunity that I've been looking for.
I think, you know, it's a case of a guy who's got some connections and has a big name, you know, taking advantage of it.
But being out of the spotlight and removed from the pressure of pro basketball gives Michael time to reflect on his life and pay respect to his dad.
Every day, every time I step on the diamond, he's with me wherever I go. I love the game because of him. He got me started in baseball, as you know, when I was 6 years old, and for 31 years, he was with me, you know. And there's a lot of kids today who don't know their parents, never have, and probably never will, and so they don't get the education that my father gave me, you know. So I think it gives me a better motivation to stay in tune with my kids and make sure that they know what's right and what's wrong, and that when I'm gone, they can take that on.
His time playing baseball was the best Jordan I ever saw, because he was Jordan stripped of everything that made him special to the world.
Even though he gives baseball the same effort and dedication as basketball, Michael Jordan turns out to be no more than a marginal player, with a batting average barely above 200, and with fans and the press urging him to give up the game. After 18 months, Jordan hangs up his spikes, saying, with sadness and disappointment, I've decided to end my baseball career. In the fall of 1995, Jordan will be back in a basketball uniform for the first time in nearly 2 years. But this time, it's as an actor.
Hey! Perhaps I could be of some assistance.
Playing alongside Bill Murray and one of Jordan's idols in the movie Space Jam.
Oh, look out for that first step, Doc. It's a real Lulu.
Bugs Bunny. Bugs is a legend. You know, I never considered myself to even be in the same category as Bugs. It's really a privilege to even be in the same screen with him.
During the filming of Space Jam, Warner Brothers builds Jordan his own basketball court to work out on. And rumors start to fly about what he might do when the movie's finished shooting. And then, even though he had once kissed the game goodbye, had his jersey retired, and his image immortalized, Michael Jordan is ready again to show the world he's got game. As the 1995 regular season draws to a close, Jordan comes out of retirement to run with the Bulls again.
I think the grieving was over, and he came back to the place where he felt he was most comfortable, and he was a little different when he came back. He wasn't quite so tough on the people he played with. He was more, if anything, more amiable in the locker room. He had nothing else to prove except to himself, and he did it.
Temporarily wearing a new number, 45, Jordan plays the last month of the season, but he's not at the top of his game. His Bulls are uncharacteristically knocked out of the playoffs by Shaquille O'Neal and the Orlando Magic. But by the 1996 season, Michael Jordan is all the way back. He's MVP of the All-Star game, and the Bulls win an NBA record 72 games. Then, in a bizarre coincidence, the Bulls win their 4th championship in 6 seasons on Father's Day. The conflicting emotions, victory and anguish, proved too much for Jordan.
For 15 months, I geared myself up to getting back on top without the support of my father. And every day, that was a motivating factor for me. You can't get there if you don't push yourself.
As the season ends, Michael will tell friends that he still misses the man who drove him to games and to greatness.
And he said, sometimes I'll walk through a crowd and I'll see a young boy and his dad looking at me. And they won't even know that I've noticed them. But I find myself thinking, Jordan would say, man, I wish I was them.
Coming up, the worldwide icon and billion-dollar businessman takes a hit in a sweatshop scandal.
When you don't take a stand on sweatshops, that seems to be not all American.
In the 20th century, there were only three people. You had Babe Ruth in 1927, you had Elvis Presley in 1956, and you had Jordan during his years playing basketball, who had this almost chemical connection with the American public.
By the middle 1990s, Michael Jordan's megastar appeal reaches unparalleled heights.
Like Mike, if I could be like Mike. Oh, if I could be like Mike. Like Mike, if I could be like Mike.
His image appears to be everywhere, on billboards, magazine covers, commercials, and movie screens.
What'd you expect? Elmer Fudd?
Physically, he's beautiful, he's handsome, he's got a fabulous smile, he speaks well, he's an incredible athlete. He's just got so many little things that are good.
He cuts through all sorts of racial barriers. He cuts through class barriers. He cuts through political differences. He cuts through religious differences. He transcends it all.
In fact, Jordan's star power extends far beyond his own country. He is a global presence and perhaps the most recognized man in the world.
Basketball began to hit in China and the Far East. Basketball hit in Europe. And at the same time that American NBA basketball was being marketed throughout the world, the key and the identifiable frontman for all this was Michael Jordan.
And he became, probably along with Muhammad Ali, the most popular sports figure in the world. He was known everywhere.
Jordan might now be 100% recognizable in New York, London, Chicago, Paris, Los Angeles, Madrid, name the city.
How about Moscow, where these Michael Jordan folk dolls are for sale at newspaper stands? Or Israel, where fans are glued to TV sets when Air Jordan's on the screen.
They said he was the most familiar face in the world, #1, and number 2 is Jesus. And I'll say for Jordan, L'chaim.
And it seems everything Jordan touches turns to gold.
You know, nobody in the world could cover my main man, Michael Jordan. Nobody, nobody, nobody.
When Nike hitches its corporate wagon to Jordan through a series of popular commercials produced by Spike Lee, sales for its Air Jordans take off and keep going, generating an estimated $200 million a year for Nike. Jordan's appearance in Space Jam helps bring in more than $230 million for Warner Brothers. Meanwhile, his salary with the Chicago Bulls is reported to be a whopping $34 million, and Jordan's impact on the NBA is almost incalculable.
People who were not basketball fans wanted to see basketball games, NBA games, because of him. And he sold the league. And he meant more ticket sales, more television ratings, better sponsorship, more memorabilia sales, more sales, T-shirts and hats, and anything connected with basketball.
By now, Jordan Mania is operating at full volume.
There became a barnstorming type effect where everywhere that Michael Jordan went, it became an event.
It was like following the Rolling Stones. This was like a rock band leaving the hotel to go to the bus. And when they would leave an arena, people would touch the bus like it was the monolith in 2001. They just put their hands up and look at it and scream.
Occasionally, Jordan's able to find some humor in the mass appeal and hysteria surrounding him, like when he appears on Saturday Night Live and shows off some nifty comic moves.
Because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
As Jordan's empire continues to grow in leaps and bounds, there are legions of fans who want to be like Mike. But others are not so sure.
We live in an age of self-involvement.
And certainly Michael Jordan is the poster boy for self-involvement.
He had earned, by some estimates, $500 million in the 1990s. One source even jokes that Michael Jordan regularly out-earns the country of Jordan. How then, say his critics, can he not give more back to the community? And with so much clout, why does he refuse to embrace social and political causes?
Clearly, he had the opportunity to be as powerful a role model as there was in the world. His status and profile were such that he certainly would have been able to target any real cause and make an enormous impact.
In the early 90s, Jordan had taken heat for refusing to endorse former Charlotte Mayor Harvey Gantt in a Senate race against Jesse Helms in Jordan's home state of North Carolina. Gantt was seeking to become the South's first black senator since Reconstruction.
Jesse Helms is a guy who would probably have black people still working on plantations and living in sharecroppers' shacks in his perfect world. Harvey Gantt was a bright, articulate guy who I'm sure had many of the same life experiences that Michael Jordan did. They came from essentially the same place. That just seems to be pure logic. And, you know, and Jordan defied logic just the way he did gravity.
Helms wins the Senate seat, and Jordan remarks, half-jokingly, that he passed on Gantt because Republicans buy sneakers too. And when controversy arises over allegations that Nike employs pitifully paid child factory workers overseas, Jordan says nothing.
I mean, this is a guy who's gotten rich in part because he's put his name on sneakers that sell for, what, 120 bucks a pair? And now he has a chance to stick up for somebody, to stick up for a little man and say, do something about it. Do something about it or I take a hike. But he didn't have the guts to do it. And I think that's a great moment of shame for him.
The sneaker scandal erupts even further when political cartoonist Gary Trudeau starts taking shots at Jordan and Nike in his Doonesbury comic strip. And while Jordan takes no action, the controversy doesn't seem to dampen his value. In 1998, the year Fortune magazine estimates Michael Jordan's overall impact on the economy at $10 billion. Michael leads the Bulls to yet another championship, the 6th, hitting the game-clinching shot on the road against Utah.
Everybody in the building knew that he was going to take that shot.
Open! Chicago with the lead!
And the last thing I saw was I looked right up and the ball just swished right through the hoop, and the place just went silent.
It winds up being Jordan's last shot as a Chicago Bull. After winning his 6th Most Valuable Player award in the winter of 1999, Michael Jordan has had enough.
It's sad that I have to, you know, that I'm leaving the game, but it's happy because my life is starting to go into a whole nother stage. Basketball, for me, was the first stage. It got me to this point in my life, and, you know, I knew it had to end. You know, my life takes on a different stage now, and it's a different challenge, and I welcome that.
Coming next, will Michael Jordan stay on the sidelines? Should he?
If Michael comes back to play, I'd be like the Beatles on a reunion tour.
Michael Jordan retires from basketball for the 2nd time and begins life anew away from the court. He's a full-time father and the most popular carpooler in town. His Nike products and numerous other endorsements are still hot. And an IMAX movie, Michael Jordan to the Max, takes in millions.
Every day that I stepped on the basketball court, even though I was on top of the world, I felt like I had something to prove.
But ferocious competitor that he is, Jordan is not able to stay away from the game for very long. In 1999, he becomes part owner and president of the Washington Wizards, a lowly team with only one playoff appearance in the last 14 years.
You know, this is new to me. You know, not you people watching me and watching every move I make, but just being in a city to give my support to another team.
I said, but Michael, this has got to be the hardest thing you have ever tried to do. I said, do you really believe you can be successful in that? So we had a pretty frank discussion about it at that time, and I thought it was the most difficult challenge that he had ever had, and still think that.
Although the Wizards finished dead last, with Jordan in the front office, there's a new sense of hope within the organization. First, Jordan turns to his old coach to lead his team.
I'd like to bring Doug up and say thanks and welcome to the Washington Wizards. And we look forward for his ability to take this to a championship situation.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Michael.
Then the Wizards get the first pick in the upcoming NBA draft.
The first pick in the 2001 NBA draft goes to the Washington Wizards.
But the biggest news coming out of the Wizards camp these days has nothing to do with coaches and draft picks. Word has it that the team president himself has been working out at a frenetic pace amid rampant speculation that he's considering a comeback.
Physically, he's getting himself right. You know the mental state is there. He has never lost that competitive drive. But Michael will soon be able to say to me, like, Doug, I'm going to do it, or you know what, I just can't get to where I want to get.
Adding grist to the rumor mill is Charles Barkley, who is contemplating a comeback as well.
But I'm going to support him no matter what. And for me, hey, if it was anybody else other than Michael Jordan, I wouldn't even consider this.
I told him, I said, if you could get down to 260, you know, which I didn't think he could and still don't at this particular time, then I would play with you. You know, I would come back with you. Basically, that's how we got to this whole process. So, I mean, when Charles is like telling, you know, the media.
But Jordan doesn't quite rule the idea out. And if he does decide to attempt to come back, the question is, will the 39-year-old Jordan be able to compete? When he pulled off the miraculous 38-point game in the '97 finals while riddled with flu, Jordan was 35 and still at the peak of his game.
Michael Jordan from straight away. It looks like he's a boxer just hanging on along the ropes.
What about now, with the next generation of superstars like Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, and Ray Allen chomping at the bit to get hold of him?
I think it can go either way, even though he looked in great condition. He's 39 years old, so you know he's 3 years removed now from playing big time competitively. It's not going to be easy.
And then there's something to be said for bowing out gracefully. After all, how could he ever do better than his perfect final moment in 1998, taking and making that last shot to win his last championship game?
It's no fun to watch a great athlete disgraced. You think of Willie Mays in the 1973 World Series, staggering around in center field for the Mets. That was sad. It's just not how you want to see these guys go out. Much better to go out the way Ted Williams did. Hit the home run and say, that's it, kids, I'm out of here. And Jordan has done that.
Whether he comes back or not, one thing is certain. Michael Jordan is arguably the greatest to ever play the game of basketball. And only time will tell if he is able to successfully add another chapter to a life spent soaring at a level others can only dream about.
If he's still physically able to do it and he loves the game, then why not come back?
I said, you're not coming back, are you? He said, you better hope I don't come back because we'll beat you guys 4 times. Typical Michael.
You know, some people wouldn't want to see me out there playing, you know, because they have a perfect perception of how my career should end. But ultimately, they don't get up and look in the mirror and say, hey, you know, what if?
He's more than just a great athlete. Michael Jordan is a cross-generational, cross-cultural, international superstar. When he traveled to Paris back in 1997, a French newspaper described his visit as, quote, better than the Pope. It's God in person. I'm Matt Lauer. Thanks for watching.
For information on upcoming programs, go to prime.msnbc.com.
Sometimes I dream